Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to complete a series of tasks for ISIS on OcNOS devices. A few of these tasks of course are not supported on the virtualization environment which I am using. For example, this one, multi-topology, which creates a separate topology for IPv6 and IPv4. So what I'm trying to do is to show you the actual command, but of course I cannot execute it here, but you will see how to enable it on a real device. The rest of them, it asks me to configure IPv6 addresses on the interfaces, which I have done it before, but I'm going to show you how you can do that. And also I'm going to use the same metrics as IPv4. Basically what this is asking me is to enable wide metric using metric style wide under ISIS, and of course because we are going to make sure that IPv6 address family is enabled, we are going to enter that command as well. And finally it is going to ask us to leak some of these routes into area 5, for example here. Let's take a look at the topology which we are using. You can see that there is a backbone domain here which is marked with area 1. You can have multiple domains, but they should be contiguous. This domain is connected to multiple domains. Some of them are configured with level 1 routers such as area 5, which is of interest for this task. I'm going to zoom into this a little bit so that you can see everything better, and then I'm going to start the configuration. I'm going to show you the configuration of IPv6 addresses first. So if I just go to router 2, for example, I can see show running configure interface loopback. This is the only interface that I have configured with IPv6, but of course you can see that there is this IPv6 address configured with this. Now what I'm trying to do is to add this to ISIS IPv6. You can see that normally we have IP router ISIS OcNOS, but what I need to do is to go to configuration mode, go to interface loopback, and I'm going to say IPv6 router ISIS and then OcNOS, and hit enter and then commit this. Now this says that it says that interface is enabled as passive interface, which is okay, and I have no problem with that. If I say show running config of router ISIS, you can see that I don't have any address family IPv6, which I am going to enable it right now. So if I say router ISIS OcNOS, and after that I'm going to say address family IPv6, this is going to be enabled. Now the command that I told you about, multi-topology, should be enabled under this. You should type multi-topology, and after that you can go with level 2 or level 1 or just hit enter, and that is going to be the actual command that you need to make sure that there is a separate topology for IPv6 than IPv4, but you can see that this gives me an error because this is not supported under virtualization environment. So I'm going to say commit. And of course, if I just say do show ISIS database and hit enter, this is going to tell me that I have these LSPs, but I don't say any other one for IPv6 because multi-topology is not enabled in here. But anyway, if I just check this one, I'm going to say this one detail. I'm going to see the information, and you can see that now I have this in the topology, and I'm going to send it to other routers. Okay, so let's do something else. If I say show IP route, you can see that I have this, and if I say show IPv6 route, now this is a connected network, so there is no problem with that. Let's do this on router 3. On router 3 and router 4, let's just open a notepad and then type everything under that. That would be much better. So what I'm trying to do is to say configure terminal, go to interface loopback, then I'm going to say IPv6 router ISIS OcNOS, and this is going to advertise this interface under OcNOS ISIS. Then what I'm trying to do is to say router ISIS OcNOS, and then under this I'm going to say address family family, of course, ipv6, and under this I'm going to just say commit. Of course you need to enter multi-topology in case you really want to, and of course I'm going to save the configuration in the end. So that is what I'm basically trying to do on almost every router in here. So router 4, router 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so let's go back to router 2, check routing table one more time. Okay, so the reason being is I don't have any IPv6 connections on other interfaces. So let's do this as well. What I'm trying to do is to say router 4 Ethernet 2, router 3 Ethernet 4, router 2 Ethernet 3. These are what I'm trying to enable for IPv6 as well. So let's do this on here, not on this one. This is the task list, of course. On here, I'm just going to remove this part because I don't really need it. And let's say remove all of them, of course. Just what this one is going to be important for me. Let's just copy that. So on router 4, Ethernet 2. So let's go to router 4. I'm going to say interface Ethernet 2. That's it. And commit. On router 3, it is Ethernet 4. So on router 3, interface ETH 4. And commit. And also on router 2, Ethernet 3 and 1. So I'm going to router 2, interface ETH 1, interface ETH 3, and commit. On router 7, I have 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to do this on router 7. Interface ETH 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to commit this. And finally router 6 and 5. 5 has Ethernet 2. So interface ETH 2, commit. And 6 has Ethernet 3. So interface ETH 3. And that's it. Okay, now check the routing table and look back to one more time. So router 5 gave me an error. It says that there are some changes. I need to just remove them. Let's see what the problem might be. So here we have the previous commit, which is okay. And here it says that configuration is invalid. Let's see what we have here. Show running config of router ISIS says that IPv6 address family is enabled. And then I'm going to show running config of interface ETH 3. Okay, so this is what we need to do, a do in front. So on router 5, of course, ETH 2, not ETH 3. So ETH 2, and under interface ETH 2, I would like to say IPv6 router ISIS OcNOS. And now I'm going to say commit. And let's see what we have here. Show transaction current is going to tell me what we are trying to enable. So here what we are trying to enable is just enabling this IPv6 router ISIS. Maybe the problem is I need to say IPv6 enable for this interface here. So interface ETH 2, I'm going to say IPv6 enable. IPv6. We don't have enable here, so doesn't matter. Let's just import the transaction. And then I'm going to check the configuration one more time. Show running config of router ISIS, no problem. Do show IP address, IP interface brief. Tells me that Ethernet 2 has the IP address, and I'm going to say interface Ethernet 2, and I'm going to say IPv6 router ISIS OcNOS. Hopefully this time it is going to commit and without any problem. Okay, now that we have done this, let's go back to router 2, and I'm going to say show IPv6 routing table. So now you can see that we are receiving the routes, and after some time, of course, this should be even more because we are going to receive some routes from router 5 and 6 as well. Let's go to router 7 to show IPv6 route, and IPv6, not 7. Come on. Okay. And it says that for now I have not received anything. Okay. In my next attempt, what I'm going to do is to assign a route, an IPv6 address to each one of the interfaces that we have on router 2. And specifically, I'm not going to use this link local IPv6 addresses anymore. So let's do that. For router 2, I'm going to configure Ethernet 1 with an IP address which is connected to router 7. Let's do that. So I'm going to say interface ETH1. IPv6 address is going to be 2001. That is router 2. That one is router 7. And that is going to be router 2/64. So that is the IP address that I just allocated to this. And the other interface that I'm going to configure is ETH3. So let's do that. I'm going to say ETH3 is connected to, let's say, network 0. So what I'm going to do is to say 0, and this one should be 0. So that is what I'm trying to do. I'm going to commit this. I'm going to do the same thing on others. For example, this should go to router 7. On router 7, I'm going to say interface ETH1. IPv6 is going to be 7. On ETH2, I am connected to router 5. So I'm going to say that is going to be 5/7. And on ETH3, I am connected to router 6. So what I'm trying to do is to say this is 6/7, and then I'm going to commit this. Okay, on router 5, I'm going to have this one. On Ethernet 2. So that should be 5. Commit. On router 6, I should have this one. So I'm going to say, first of all, let's see what the problem is here. I'm going to say abort trans, and I'm going to say show run interface ETH3. Okay, under this interface ETH3, ETH3, of course, I'm going to have this IPv6 address, and then I'm going to say IPv6 router ISIS OcNOS. Then I'm going to commit this. Okay, this time I have no problem. Okay, show IP route so far gives me this, and IPv6 route gives me a bunch of routes, which is awesome. Let's go back to others and configure them. So I have configured router 2, but I have not configured router 3 for now. So if I go to here and say do show IP route, not IP route, why did I say this? IP interface brief, of course. Interface brief. I'm going to use interface ETH4, and I'm going to say IPv6 address is going to be 2001 0 0, and finally 3/64, and commit this. And the same thing on router 4, of course. On router 4, let's show IP interface brief. The interface should be Ethernet 2. So I'm going to say 2 and commit this. Okay, now that I have done this, I'm going to say show IPv6 route. Okay, now I have full information from every part of the network, from 7, from 5, and I should have it from 6 as well. After some time, you should see that. And I'm going to go to router 6 to see if there is any problem with this. On router 6, IPv6 route, no, there is no problem. I have configured this here, but I guess the IPv6 address to show IPv6 interface brief says that Ethernet 3 is configured with this. And let me just see if I can ping the other side. So if I just say do ping this 7, okay, do ping maybe IPv6, ping IPv6. This is the IP address, and there is reachability, so there is no problem with that. Okay, so that's going to be fixed, no problem. Like I said, these are virtualization issues that we can see. Do show IPv6 route on router 7, which is my L1, L2. You can see that this doesn't have information about router 6, but I guess we are going to be okay after some time. If I just say to show ISIS database, here what I'm trying to receive from router 6, I'm going to just check it, and I'm going to say this one with detail to see what we are advertising, and this is advertising this to us and also its own IPv6 subnet, so there should be no problem. I just guess that this is just virtualization error, and what I wanted to receive is of course here, and so if I just say show IPv6 route, almost everything is there. So let's just check the configuration so far. What we have done is important. So if I say show running config of router ISIS, this is what we have added under ISIS, the address family IPv6. Show running config of interface loopback. We have added this under interface loopback, and also an IPv6 address here. And the final thing for the other interfaces, of course, we have added an IPv6 address so that we have an adjacency with them. And of course, this command under those interfaces. The task says I should leak L2 domain IPv6 host route into L1. So that is what we have not done here. If I just go to router 6 and say, or router 5 for example, and say show IPv6 route, you can see that I don't have information about 2, 3 or something like that. But if I want to do this, what I need to do is to go to router 7 and just use a distribute list and redistribute everything here. If I go to router 7, I'm going to say show run router ISIS. In previous configuration, show run of course. In the previous configuration, I redistributed ISS level 2 into level 1 using distribute list, and I created a distribute list for that. The same configuration could be done under IPv6. So if I just say router OcNOS and go to IPv6 address family, here I would say redistribute ISIS level 2 into level 1. And after that, I can use a distribute list. And let's say that distribute list name is bb host routes. But in the end, I would say 6. That is because I'm using an IPv6 address here. And now what I'm trying to do is to say I'm going to create an access list for this. So let's exit this and exit this. We have IPv6 access list here. And what I'm trying to do is a standard version of that, because I'm not going to have a source and destination, and then a name for that, which is going to be this one. And I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to say permit 2000, let's say 2, and after that it asks me for this, and hit enter, then 2003, and 2004, of course. That is what I'm trying to permit here, and I'm going to say commit the configuration. Now distribution should be done. If I just go to router 5 and try the routing table one more time, you can see that these routes are redistributed into here, and now I have access to them. In case I want to create a tag or something for that, that's going to be possible. Okay, so the tasks are done and completed. I hope this has been informative for you, and see you in next videos.